interdisciplinary perspective and try to show that interdisciplinary perspective, why it is so important in broadening the horizon of our horizon about the matter under inquiry, because there are certain matters, there are certain subjects which we cannot approach from the perspective of a single discipline. If we are approaching some subject from the particular perspective, from a perspective of a particular branch of study, then I think we are far away from getting us the right solution. So that is the reason I will argue for an interdisciplinary approach. And why interdisciplinary approach is important. But it is not only because it is not only in respect of, I'm talking not only about social sciences or law, I'm also talking about humanities and even natural science. So let me first tell you about the research methods. But before I proceed to discuss research method, two points I would like to cover. First is that what is the meaning of research, first of all, and second, why we have a different kind of methods and tools, why different disciplines of knowledge, they have different kinds of method and tools, and what is the meaning of a discipline. So let me start from this thing, that first of all I kick off my discussion with telling you about something, what is discipline. So as you know, the discipline is a branch of study, branch of knowledge, and what happens that we have organized our knowledge into different categories. And that, for example, that this pertains to this particular subject, pertains to physical science. This is about the life sciences. This is about the social sciences. Because in social sciences, what happens there, that we study about the human behavior. In life sciences also we study on humans, but our study is limited to the physical aspect. So there is the physical study. In social sciences, we are concerned with the behavior. And when we are concerned with the behavior, so sometimes we find that the methods used by science is not very much helpful in social science, because here the problem is much more complex. Because in science you can find certain pattern, but sometimes it happens in the social sciences that we do not get that kind of pattern or definite pattern. So there is some problem in social sciences. And next, so discipline, when I call some branch of knowledge a discipline, the meaning is that it is not simply, it is not as simple as we say that it is just something which is, we have divided into different branches, knowledge. No, it is much more that. Why it is much more that? That what happens when we look from the disciplinary angle, look at the subject from a particular angle, in which I am trained, then what happens that I am already prejudiced. Number one, prejudiced to the knowledge in other field. I am prejudiced to the methods of their research. So we prefer our own method of research. Since we are trained in our one particular method of research, social sciences have its own method of research, humanities have their own method of research, law, the discipline to which I belong, that has its different methodology. Science has different methodology. So what happens that because of this reason, the boundary which is we have made, that boundary becomes much more strong, and it becomes after some time, after lapse of some time or a few generations, that you find that no, it is not wise to cross the boundary. And we then what happens that you can say digging deeper into our field only, and we are not connected to the other disciplines. So there is a maybe the matter of the complex supplies, that why I science, those who belong to field of science, natural science, they say why I interact to the social sciences. Sometimes law, social science scientists can say why I'm how I am concerned with the legal discipline law. So that is a kind of complex we have. And second thing is that if this boundary is the nature of this artificial boundary, I call it boundary artificial. Why it is artificial? That we have created the boundaries only for the purpose of putting the knowledge, giving the whatever knowledge we have got, giving that in an order, to in an ordered manner, to collect the knowledge that we have. We have organized the knowledge into different branches, but it is not natural. Actually, it is artificial, because there is nothing inherent in the nature of different disciplines that you can say that since that it is inherently very different from my subject. Science is never inherently you can say different from social sciences. The only thing is that a discipline can be defined sometimes also on the basis of the methodology. So you can say, yes, their methodology is different. They have some advanced type of methodology which we do not have. So sometimes we borrow their methodology. But since if we think that no, there is a watertight compartment between the two disciplines, then what happens that we are not looking at the research methodology used by other disciplines. So what I think, when we become interdisciplinary and we look at the methodologies adopted in other disciplines, and we try to adopt that methodology and try to mix that methodology with the particular methodology with which we are concerned, and a methodology which applies to a particular context, a particular discipline, then what happens? Then that gives you the complete picture. Study of a particular discipline, however deeper you are studying, how deep your study is, that is not that I appreciate, that your study is very deep. You are very deeply, you have studied some subject and you have got a specialization. But still I will say that you have not got the complete picture, because everything has some social dimension, political dimension, economic dimension. There are a number of dimensions of some subject. Suppose there is a some subject matter of that belongs to the pure science, which or natural science. So that may have also some social aspect. So that is the reason that means, in order to get us a better solution, you can say, the better result, we need to combine both value-free and value-based knowledge. Why science is claiming that I am totally different from social science and from other type of sciences you call that. Now there is a trend has developed, and that is true also, that subject sociology, psychology, and other subjects, that they are now, we call them social sciences. So now the question arises, in which respect the pure science is different from social sciences. So scientists claim that what we study, what we observe, that is totally different from what you observe, because our center of focus is on the natural phenomena, which is totally natural, and we try to observe certain kinds of pattern in the nature, and on that basis, and we make certain experiments. Experiments means empirical study, observation, and sometimes even I use certain tools which are peculiarly used by only science, including geography, you can say, that they use the certain instruments like telescope, like microscope, which we are not using. So in that way, they say that our focus is on studying a subject from the perspective of being neutral. I am very much neutral to the values. My study is a neutral study. It is the result which we receive, that is neutral. It is true in every context. It is not value based. Since it is not value based, so there is no scope of becoming judgmental about my research, that it is good or it is not good, or this is the weakness and these are the, you cannot criticize it, because it has no something like some element on the basis of which we can criticize some finding. So social science, though this is the difference, one very major difference between the science and social sciences. Social sciences, what happens in the case of social sciences, since human behavior, knowledge about human behavior and knowledge about certain phenomenon, physical phenomenon, both cannot be compared, both cannot be taken as equivalent, because human behavior is much more complex than the behavior which we find in the inanimate behavior of the inanimate objects. For example, that there is a much more objectivity and certainty, or you can say that there is a total certainty, conclusive. Either science is either conclusive or it is not conclusive. Means that, suppose that we are studying the stars in the universe, and now we are using, and now we come to the conclusion that yes, this is the movement of a particular star, and this is regularly happening. So on that basis, I come to some conclusion about the behavior of that star, that it definitely happens, and it definitely happens at that time. So such as the lunar eclipse, we experience lunar eclipse only on full moon day, and solar eclipse only on the you can say when you can say new moon, that is called the new moon. So why this happens? So they find that there is some pattern or order in the nature, and they try to discover that only. So their study is descriptive, totally descriptive. They describe, they explain the pattern which is already in the nature. So that is called the discovery of some facts. But I still cannot claim, we can still not claim, and no scientist I can claim that the knowledge which he is arrived, the knowledge at which he is arrived, that is the true knowledge. Because whatever knowledge findings a scientist reaches, findings upon which results from the empirical study, or so that empirical study which is suppose which is used in the science, natural science. So that is a kind of reality which is very you can say empirical in nature. So it is empirical reality. Science provide us only the reality in the way they perceived it. But no scientist can claim that whatever theory I am giving you, that is the that is absolutely true. So that is not true in that sense that we use the term truth, because we use the term truth in the sense of some idea of, when we have some idea of God in mind, then we say that only God is absolute truth and everything is false in the world. So here scientists cannot say this thing, because he is perceiving the things, adopting a method, and he can say, yes, this is the method, I have perceived it. And what is advantage, what is important about science, natural science, is that, and why it is called science. The reason is that it can be the facts which you can say, which are the results of the scientific discovery, that can be verified by anyone. Suppose someone is coming with a theory, that theory of gravitational theory, when Newton gave this theory. So why we value it? We value it because why we call it a scientific theory, objective theory? Because anyone who is interested in knowing that, in verifying that thing, whether really there is a gravitational force or not, if he uses that method that was used by model that was used by Newton, then he will also reach the same conclusion. So it is verifiable. So knowledge, science comprises those knowledge or research which is verifiable, means which you can verify, almost in that limited way, because sometimes science the research which we are doing in the field of science, they are experimental, and that is done only in the laboratory. So that applies only in a controlled conditions. And when that knowledge is exposed to the real world, so there is some, we find that that is not exactly matching with each other. So that is a different problem. That is the limitation of science also. So even assuming that in controlled conditions, it is replicating science, that you can say surely that this is the case, and it will replete. You can with confidence, 100% confidence, you can say that whatever I'm saying, it will be it can be replicated. It will be replicated, provided that that controlled conditions are means that there is that, and subject to that means if this knowledge is verified under those you can say controls in which that was done. So now you see that this is the one thing that is the important for in the case of science. And why science become so much means area of so much interest, so much interesting area, that because of the method they are using, their method is objective. They are using the method, they are observing they are using empirical inquiry. Their inquiry is empirical, their inquiry is based on observation. So on the basis of that observation, they come to some conclusion. It is not based on some idea which is a priori. For example, in other fields of knowledge, or you can say in law and political science, we study a theory of natural law. And that theory, the basic premise of that theory is that all human beings are rational. Or sometimes it is claimed that the basic premise is that only human beings are the most intelligent or most you can say rational animal or rational being on the earth. So things are particularly, since they are unique. Why unique? Because they are the only rational. All other animals, they are not rational. So if they are the only creature which are rational, it means their nature has provided for them certain kind of nature has given, nature has you can say has in store certain kinds of duties, their rights, and some solutions for their problems. So so nature is for us. We are nature around us, which environment which we are you can say that we are looking around, that environment is made for us. So that is known as the a kind of human centric idea, that human being is the rational, only rational. Human being is the only creature which is rational. But up now we start from this idea. But how can we say that this idea is right or wrong? We cannot very objectively say that this idea is correct. We cannot say, because there is no objective study behind it. We start from this as believing, and this is as a dogma. Certain truths are taken as a dogma, means we never inquire about their truthness. We take them as granted, that human beings are the most intelligent creature. Human beings are created by God. Human beings are most rational. They are rational. They are the moral agent. So these type of things we have not on the basis of objective study or inquiry. That is my point. Try to understand what is different between science and what is different between pure science and other sciences, behavioral sciences. That in the case of pure science, you reach the result through some method of inquiry which is neutral to all these perceptions without being prejudiced. Here what happens? We start from a premise in social sciences. Suppose in natural law theory I'm talking about. So the natural law philosopher, whether it is Aristotle or even say Plato, Cicero, they start from this basic premise that the humans are the only creature which have rationality, which is rational. But we never try to look whether it can be it can be. We never try to know inquire about it, because we take it as a premise, a fundamental our knowledge, fundamental basis of my study. So when you have some idea, a priori we have some idea, we start from already we are prejudiced to this thing that human beings are the only rational animals, then your next step, suppose it is wrong. So whatever conclusion you are deriving, then your next stage of research, that next stage of argument is based on the previous premise. And what is that premise? That human beings are only rational. In natural law, what in ancient times, what also there was a belief, kind of belief, that men are more wise than women. So this thing also you can when you start from this premise, then it is very likely that you are not getting the true result, because you start from a particular idea about which you cannot claim that it is empirically it is true. I have observed it, and on that basis I am saying. So this is the difference. So when our basic premise, suppose, is wrong, then in social sciences, the drawback of the social sciences is that the result we are reaching on the basis of that premise through deductive method, suppose, that premise will also be wrong. For example, in political science, in law, and also sometimes in humanities also, we find many theories which are many research which are based on this basic idea that human being is a creature which is unique in itself. Unique in the sense that only human being is I can say that the rational animal. Only human beings are rational animals. So the world is created for them. So here what happens, this is, we are now prejudiced. We start from a priori. Since we start from a priori, so we can call it a pure research. Because we have already assumed something as happening, and we never tried to know whether that premise itself is correct or not. This thing is not, science is free from this kind of subjective study that is purely objective. They never take anything as established. They never start from certain premise. Their method is inductive. Inductive means they start from observing from a particular. They observe a particular phenomenon, and then they try to generalize it. So they are moving from particularity to generalization, from particular to general. So that is called the method, that is called the inductive method. But what happens in, suppose I'm talking about the law, that in law we have already we have certain notions. Traditionally, we were believing that human beings should behave in that way, and that has been the basis of a number of research, which you can say that they do not, we cannot find them true when we test them in the light of the contemporary research, even in social sciences or in law. Science has now proved with sufficient evidence. Scientific inquiry is evidence-based inquiry. It is empirical. It is verifiable. It is objective. It is free from any value. It is neutral. It is devoid of any kind of prejudice and bias. It is not something we start a priori. You are open. Your mind is totally open to everything. So you start from the open mind. So the science now has proved that human beings are not the only creature who can claim that they are the only rational. They are the only rational creature, or they are the only rational animal. Now it is proved by the science there are some species, if not many, at least there are some species which are much more intelligent than human being. So superiority which human being is claiming over other creatures, that since we are only creature, only living object which is rational. Now this theory is, you can say, is now become, when you say that it is false, then you come to realize it means that all our knowledge which we deducted. देखिए, the law is using a methodology which is deductive, means we deduct from certain premise. Certain premise means that we start from a particular fact which we take as established, well established. Then we deduct from that a new theory, and a new theory is further deducted from that theory. That new theory, a further theory is deducted. So, but what happens if the very basis is wrong? It means the knowledge you collected or you deducted from that basis, taking the basis as true, totally true, it means that that it is not true. So that is the difference between the difference of methodology that is important in understanding the discipline. And this methodology, this methods of research, on the basis of which you can say that we can define what is research, and then we can go to the different kinds of methods. Returning to the point which I started in the very beginning, that what is discipline. So discipline actually a great role, their division of the knowledge in different discipline, the great role which has played is this thinking that my methodology is different and their methodology is different, and also the thinking that my discipline is superior, and why should I recognize their discipline? Why should I talk to persons, scholars who are from different disciplines? And we never think any need to interact with people of other disciplines. For example, lawyers, those who are typical lawyer. I'm not typical lawyer, although I am teaching law, and at the postgraduate, or even can say at the research level, research methodology, everything. But I cannot say that I'm lawyer, in true sense lawyer, because because for me, I am not taking law as a professional study. I'm taking law purely as an academic discipline. So since I am taking it as an academic discipline, so I am not a professional, I am an academician. So I'm comparing with me, my position as some academician who is belonging to a field of social science. Certainly, I cannot say that I belong to the natural science because their method is entirely different. Their method is neutral, value free. But whatever method of research is used by social sciences, they can't be the neutral free. You can't be totally neutral free when you are observing the human behavior. Means when you are observing humans, their behavior, and you are grappling with certain issues. Suppose you want to explore some problem that why the people are corrupt in our society. Why? What is the reason of the so rampant corruption in our society? What is the reason behind the violent crimes in our society? Why the crimes are increasing in the society? So here we are concerned with the human behavior and human behavior. And whenever you are approaching the subject, you 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 have to become there are many chances that there is a there is it is very likely that you will be subjective. Your method cannot be truly you can say objective. Your inquiry cannot be truly objective. So what happens, that is the main difference between the, you can say, the results of the research in two fields. One more thing which I will, so what is the implication? Implication is that now the discipline, the problem is not that we have different disciplines. The real problem is that when discipline becomes self-perpetuating. Self-perpetuating means the division is becoming so rigid by the passage of time that we find it very difficult to cross that boundary. And whenever we are trying to cross the boundary or transgressing the boundary, we find that we are doing something which is not fair. Why I'm looking at that discipline? So your ancestors, means those who are your predecessors, your teachers, they never gave you that kind of training that you go to study the methods and tools of other branches. You go to have some basic knowledge of the other branches. So it is not we start our education from this point of view, this prejudice that we are not. It is not advisable for me to look into other discipline because my teacher never talked about that. My teacher, when he was teaching me law, he never used the input of the sociology. He never used the input gained from psychology. And when you are doing this, suppose I'm making a law, I'm lawmaker, parliamentarians. I am making law. I'm a policy maker. I'm a government. I'm part of the government and I'm a policy maker. And I'm making the policy keeping certain goal in our mind. But if we do not have the scientific input, objective input about the problem, how can we make you can say a law which can give the true result or which can give the result? If we are making law on the basis of the dogma, that what is dogma? There is one very clear dogma in the legal circle, and that is that although that is now very much clear that it is false. But this, since in the field of this law we don't use the empirical method, So we just believe on certain assumptions, and the assumption is that if we are punishing someone, so we can bring reform in the society. So by providing punitive measures, through punishing the people, through using the instrument of coercion, through raising the punishment, through providing stern measure, through, you can say, the stringent punishment, we can make change in the behavior of the society. Because there is a theory in criminology, and that criminology is also a part of sociology and also law. That and also psychology also. So that criminology, that there was earlier this theory, we believe that people, that a strong punishment is deterring the people for committing the crime, from committing the crime. But when we try to know, when we inquire into the matter through objective method, means empirically, by some social scientists like sociologists. Sociologist is using empirical method. So he is going into the field, he is surveying, he is talking to the people, he is meeting those persons who are in the prisoners, those who are guilty of committing crimes, serious crime, violent crimes, and he wanted to know what are the reasons why he committed the crime. And then he comes and he taking into account several kind of psychosocial factors, several kind of developmental factors, several kind of you can say the inventions in the field of biology, certain kinds of developmental studies which had been done in the field of psychiatry, psychology. Then he is giving an observation, and then that observation, you can say that this observation is empirically tested observation. So if we are making law instead of an observation which we never tested, which we simply assume on the basis of you can say sometimes common sense, etc. That now the sociologists are saying it is totally wrong. It is a wrong idea that by prescribing a very heavy, very stern punishment, you can bring change in the society. Suppose you want to address the problem of corruption. It can never be solved through the model of punishment. The model of punishment never reforms. It only, you can say, it is only believe that it has the deterrent effect. But for many reasons, it does not have deterrent effect. Why? Because I told you that human behavior and the study of human behavior is much more complex. The reason is that why we commit crime, and the government is making law, and every time they are claiming that we are coming out with a very strong law, and now the offense, so that people will be afraid of committing that crime, because we have now provided very stern punishment, such like life imprisonment, or even death, capital sentence for that kind of heinous offense. So it will deter, it will create a fear in the mind of those who are trying to commit that crime. But actually, this is not, this doesn't happen. Because when you commit crime, the factors, the reason when we commit crime, they are so diverse that you cannot begin from some formula, straight jacket formula, means that from a fixed idea of the crime. Most of the crimes you observe, if you observe, suppose murder and suppose killing of anyone, so we will find that the it is not because a person is it is committed by a person whom you call criminal. Actually, he is not born criminal. He is not born as a criminal. Why he is committing a crime? Why is killing someone? Try to know what the reason behind that. And you will find that in many cases it happened, person committed this kind of violent crime in order to take revenge. In order to take revenge. It is the feeling of revenge. So when a person has a strong feeling of revenge, or that is also, you can say, that is called the vengeance, this kind of revenge, then hardly he is looking at the punishment angle. Because you have to take the revenge. Aapko badla lena. You are so much hurt that since that person killed my father, so now I have to kill him. So now you are don't looking at the punishment. Second reason is that why you are not afraid of the punishment. Suppose the government says that yes, for the honor killing there will be capital punishment, but still those who are involved in the honor killing, they are never troubled by that aspect, that I will be given the capital punishment. Why? Because for them honor killing is more important. They find more kind of satisfaction in doing honor killing, and even if they are hanged, even at the cost of capital punishment. And the second thing is that there is also a belief in a society, and that anyhow I will manage the things. Means it is generally the idea about the among the commonplace thing, commonplace it is. This idea is commonplace, that many of us believe that no matter I am committed crime, okay, no matter, let them arrest. But anyhow, in the last I will be given clean chit by the court, because I know the flaws in the system. I know the flaw in the criminal justice system. I will hire a lawyer who is so skilled in manipulating the things, even skilled in creating false evidence. On the basis of that, I will be exonerated by the court. So many people commit crime believing that they will never be get punished. They will never get punishment because of some flaw in the criminal justice system, flaw in the law, flaw in the court method, procedure of the court, flaw in the corruption in the police, corruption in the court system. So, or you can say there are certain loopholes which a lawyer is using, and lawyer is treated as a great lawyer who is manipulating the things, who is skilled particularly in manipulating the things. He is expert in manipulating. Then only he can become a good lawyer. Otherwise, you can say, he will not a good lawyer. So that is the reason that many people think that anyhow I will not be punished. I am so much powerful in the society. I have so much contacts. I have so much social contacts. I am so much attached to certain powerful groups of the society, that we will not be, ultimately I will be exonerated by the court. So now we see that it is not the punishment which is having any impact on my criminal behavior. A second time says that most of the crimes are committed under the you can say uh, some kinds of means such as you can say it happens in the case of road rage, that persons are so excited, that they are not thinking in a rational way. They lost their rational thinking, and then they in out of that that the you can say the means they have lost, they are so excited, they are in such a state of excitement that they commit crime. They don't have the time to reflect even upon. If you give some time of reflection, suppose someone is ready to kill someone because of there is some accident on the road, and he's so angry one was that he now going to kill another one. So but if you anyhow you pass them, you create some time for them, so that the person can reflect upon, then you will find that the moment he is outside the excitement, the moment he is not in the excitement, then he may be rethinking that what I will get by killing this person. So it is better that to leave this person. It is better to it is always in the wisdom that we should excuse that person instead of giving some punishment, because now what the harm was done, that harm was already done. We cannot undo it by we can undo it by some other method, but we cannot undo it by killing that person. So now you see that the most of crimes are committed in the rage, or you can say in some in the influence of the fits, or in the influence of the rage, or you can say in the state of excitement. So how he's not thinking about the punishment. There is also misleading idea about that people are committing. We will try we will now provide the capital punishment for those who are involved in the committing rape, or those who are involved in committing rape or heinous crime in the, against some child. So we have now provided POCSO Act that now it is giving capital, that is now prescribes capital punishment even. But it is not going to matter. It has no impact. Why it is no impact? You can empirically test it. That is in the wake of Nirbhaya tragedy, we made our law so strong, so punitive, so-called strong. I don't think that if you are providing very stringent punishment, then the law becomes strong. No, I have written on that aspect also. That is not the strong. That is not the, you are not doing something adding any quality to law. Rather, you are believing in some myth, and when you are making law starting from certain kind of myth in your mind, then your policy can never be successful. So that is the reason that in the wake of Nirbhaya, even after the law was so overhauled, I don't think that if you look at the record as released by the Crime Bureau of our country, you will never find any decrease in the crime of rape. No decrease, even you will find the increase. Despite of so much, the case was so much highlighted. Despite of that, that very early trial was completed in a very short time. Despite of the fact that capital punishment was given, and despite of that, it was very quickly it was also executed. But still, it is not the capital punishment that is deterring a criminal. Because if it is true, then the crime rate should be decreasing. Another example, because we have started from the false idea of rape. There is some committee, we have sometimes we establish commissions and committees. There is one committee was established in our field of law, in criminal reform, and that Malimat committee. And that Malimat committee long ago, means it is some 15 years ago, or you can say 2 decades ago, they gave the finding that is it wrong to see the idea of rape we have in mind. That is not the idea which is dominating us. That idea is not true. For example, what idea we have about the rape is that some girl or young lady is moving on the road, crossing the road, or he's going through, you are walking on the road, and she is very alone, and the place is then some type of criminal elements, they appear, and they take the advantage of that lonely environment, and then they commit crime, rape. This type of rape is rare, and Malimat committee has shown on the basis of the evidence, observation, empirical study, that no, it is wrong idea about the rape. Rape is not done by the rape is most of the incident of the rape is committed by persons who are known persons, not by the stranger. The idea we have in the mind that I am going through, I am walking, and I'm very much alone. Now there is no light, dark, and no one is watching. There is no crowd, and then some stranger is appearing, and he commits the crime of rape. No. What Malimat committee says that it is committed by those, mostly it is committed by those who are not a stranger. They are well-known persons, and sometimes they are your neighbors, sometimes neighbors, sometimes they may be belonging to some, may have some distant relations, and sometimes they may be your friend, sometimes maybe a person upon which you are believing. So there may be sometimes a number of other reasons why you call something rape. So when we start, my point is that when we start from a wrong premise, means a wrong idea, believing only upon the common sense. So parliamentarians are making the law not on the basis of objective study that is done in the field of sociology, criminology. There are many studies in the field of criminology and psychology. Even we will, I study regularly those observations from psychology, psychological research, because I believe that input we get from the sociology and psychology, and only on that basis of input, on the basis of that input, we can frame true law. We can frame law which is successful. So now you see that there are a number of new things, new findings, new results we have derived when we are using the method of scientific method of the method, empirical or observation based methods, which were originally used by the science. But still I will say that science is still we are lagging behind the science. Social sciences now, social scientists, they have started, you can say, using the method of science, and now claiming that they are social science. They are not, it is social science. Their subject fall in the social science, because they are using that very method, empirical method, which a scientist is using. They are using that very observational method. They are relying on that very induction method of thinking, analysis, which a scientist relies. So now we are, whatever knowledge we are producing, that is science. But there is one difference. Still, there is one difference. Even if you use the methodology of science, in one respect, science is much ahead than social science. The reason is that they are using, their tools are different, although method is the same. You have taken their method, and since the in modern times it has become, because earlier this was not possible, because science is a modern thing. It emerged only in the modern period of history, and when people started questioning the old ideas. So what happens that the sociology, psychologists, they started using their method in order to become objective, but still they copied the method of science, but still they are lagging far behind. Why? They are lagging far behind in respect of in this respect, particular respect, that they don't have that kind of tools. They don't have that kind of instrument. They don't know to use that kind of instrument which a scientist is skilled in using. For example, they are using the instrument, observational instrument. For example, they discover the telescope, and it is the telescope, when they discover telescope, and when they use that telescope, and they started looking at the universe, not through preconceived ideas. That's earlier we were believing that in our literature, means if you study the literature of our society, our tradition, that traditionally it was the thinking that and it is true not only in respect of our society but even Western society, that it is the earth which is in the center of universe, and it is the sun which is revolving, moving around the earth. So earth is the center, and human being is the center. Everything is about the human being. Our God is like human being. Everything is for human beings. So how our God can be different from us? So we also imagine an idea of God that is like a human being. He's thinking like a human being. He's punishing like a human being. Then we started believing in something, that this type of thing is sin. This type of thing is prohibited to, because the God does not like. Why these kind of ideas? They are created from our thought, and that thought is not based on any objective study. That is the point. So when telescope was discovered, and Galileo used that telescope and looked at the universe, then he found the true picture, and he came with the theory that no, it is wrong. It is not the earth it is not the sun which is moving around the earth, but rather it is earth which is moving around the sun. And earth is not at the center of the universe. It is sun which is center of the universe. And there is a Milky Way. And there is a Milky Way. And that Akash Ganga, there is not one single single Milky Way universe. There are number of universe. Later, the scientists, when they invented even more sophisticated telescope and instrument, then they showed us that there are thousands of universe. There may be thousands of universe. We know earlier when means in ancient times we were believing that our horizon was very limited. Our idea about the earth, about the universe was very limited because we were knowing only one universe, that sun, earth and sun, and because we were not using any instrument. So when the scientists, they started using instrument, then they are telling the true picture. And a revolution came, a revolutionary change occurred with a kind of telescope that is known as the Hubble. By using Hubble, now the scientists are claiming that there are 50 billions of universe. 50, imagine, 50 billions of universe. And even we are not able to explore our own universe. We cannot say. And then there are 50 billions universe. So don't you think that all the ideas they are created by ourselves on the false beliefs? It is our own thought. It is something which we have created. There is no objective basis behind that. So science is still far ahead in one respect, that they are using the instrument, whether it is life sciences or it is science, pure science, they are using the instrument. And in social science, we are not using the instrument. The reason is that they are studying some descriptive, their study is study about the inanimate thing. So, but our study about human behavior. So for that, we do not need any kind of you can say instrument. One more is an interesting point I will tell. Then I will finally conclude, because I think after time is means we are very near to the finishing it. So that in science, what happens, that they are never very much, they don't have any kind of obsession or any kind of strong addiction about their theory. Means they are always open to this idea that one day it may happen that today I came out with a theory, but I know that tomorrow it can be falsified by another scientist, because it is in the nature of the science that it is capable of falsification. If a branch of knowledge is not capable of falsification, then it is not a science. So real test is whether how much you are disagreeing with one, how much disagreement is there. If you, there was one great philosopher, Popper, he was a philosopher, scientific philosophical scientist, who said that the science, the strength of the science is that it can be falsified. And if there is so much agreement in the society, it means the society is not progressing. The real test whether society is progressing or not is that the disagreement among the scholars. And there is agreement among the scholars, it means that your society is not moving towards progress. So it is liable to be falsified. So any other person can, that we often we hear that this discovery made by one scientist was now that was found wrong by another scientist, and there are contradictory conclusions, results in the field of science also, which is claimed that they are using. But still, I will say that since their method is objective or neutral or scientific inquiry, so in that way, that is different. Now I'm coming to the major. Within 2 minutes, I will close because I know that I'm over of the time. I exceeded the time. Why we need interdisciplinary approach, even by looking, even through using the method of science, we cannot reach the solution. No scientist can say that he has provided the solution, because the human behavior, the solution regarding human behavior is something which you can get the right solution only when you are mixing the results of different disciplines. Means result which is based on the scientific study, which is value neutral, value free, and result of the social sciences, which is value loaded, or you can say which is value based. So not simply science, because what happens, suppose we are concerned with one thing, that how we deal with this particular kind of problem in our society. So for that reason, what is actually happening in the brain, our brain, and what now we are now knowing that how the brain is developing, and what are those components of the brain which are responsible for on the basis of which we can say now the person has a well developed brain. And so now it is possible scientifically. So in the light of that science, means in the light of the advancement in biology, in the light of the advancement in the psychology, you can say that now the result which we gain from that, now we make our policy based on that result. That how developed, how mature a person is. Because a person who is not mature, how can you expect that he will behave in a rational way? So here you need the help of the science to know what is exactly the threshold of the maturity. What is that kind of intelligence exactly which we need to behave in a rational manner. And then it is not the science only that will pave the way, will lead the solution. It is then you will apply to value also. Means it is that the science has given us a value free analysis, and now we are putting some value in that result, because we want a particular result, ideal result. Science is not about ideal result. Science is about what is true. Here we are concerned with the ideal result. We want something ideal, reform. Science is not about reform. Science is only telling what is the true facts. But we want to reform. So we are adding value to that knowledge. So it is the mix of value-based studies and value-free studies, that is the strength of the interdisciplinary research. And that is why I'm emphasizing on an approach which is interdisciplinary, and we need to interact more and more with other disciplines in order to get a complete picture. Otherwise, we may be skilled in our subject, but we may not have the complete idea. With these points, I think I am exceeding the time. Hello.
Yes, sir. 5 minutes.
Acha, still I have 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Acha, okay. Thank you very much. So, point which I am raising is that nowadays we are grappling with certain problems which are so complex. For example, the behavior of the child. That when a child becomes mature, a child is immature, and then we see that uh, we should not give him stern punishment. Rather, we try to reform that child, because child, his mind is still receptive to the ideas, to the reform. Still, he can be reformed. So now here you are taking the help from we are getting the input from the recent studies in the biology or recent studies in psychology. And on that basis, we can say that, yes, this, it is in the light of these facts that we should proceed further. So when you are making any policy, any law, actually policy, law is only an instrument to get some result, to get some desired result. And law is used by those who are in power. Law in itself is not doing anything. It is only a means of achieving a result. And suppose you want to achieve a particular kind of result. Suppose you are more interested in coercing the people. You are more interested in punishing the people. So your law will be coercive in nature. But if you are looking at the problem objectively, then you say that you are realizing that the problem cannot be solved through punishment. It needs rehabilitation. It needs some kind of leniency. It needs some kind of reform. Then you will come out with some measures which are reform, you can say rehabilitation based measures. So we have two options: punitive measures. And what happens when you find that the agencies in law, they are punishing someone? When you say that yes, the state is punishing, actually, if you, as the many psychologists have pointed out, that those who are agencies, those who are involved in that, doing that, punishing a person, actually they are doing a kind of thing. They are also doing punishment. Means they are also using violence. The person used violence, and now in order to correct it, we are also using violence against that person, because every punishment is means every physical punishment, like you can say capital sentence. What you are doing, you are also doing. You are taking his life. So he has taken someone's life. Now we are also taking his life. So what is this? Is this justice? I think it is revenge. Many psychologists have seen that we are driven by our society is driven by a kind of sense of revenge. That if some very heinous crime is committed, then there is this outrage in the society, and there is a pressure by the society on the lawmakers. Then the lawmakers are under so much pressure that they have no option but to come out with a very stringent law, like capital punishment, and then they say now it will solve the problem. But that will never solve the problem, because you are because the fire cannot be set off by fire, and there is an old saying. So we need different methods and tools, thinking, different kind of thinking, different kind of perspective, and we can get it only when our approach is interdisciplinary. because as many there are many lawyers who never they never bother about what is happening in sociology. They are so egoist. If I'm talking about there are many lawyers stuff. They are so egoist that they think that sociology is a subject which can be used. Psychology is subject which I can mix with me. No, they only look at law from a professional point of view. A professional, that they're only interested in gaining the skill, the particular skill that is making a person a great lawyer. So that is my point which I wanted to highlight or emphasize. I am not sure whether I have been able to convey my point to you, but my message is just simple, that through interdisciplinary research, we can get us a right solution. And with these words, now I express my thanks to you that you now heard very patiently, and thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
प्रणाम सर, मैं डॉक्टर रजनी सिंह, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर समाजशास्त्र विभाग, आर महिला पीजी कॉलेज शाहजहांपुर। मैं सभी प्रतिभागियों एवं HRDC DDU गोरखपुर यूनिवर्सिटी की तरफ से प्रोफेसर अजेंद्र श्रीवास्तव सर को धन्यवाद ज्ञापन करती हूँ। सर, आपने बहुत ही सूक्ष्म और आसान तरीके से अनुसंधान विषय पर हम सभी को विस्तृत जानकारी प्रदान किया। आपने रिसर्च से संबंधित सभी पहलुओं जैसे व्हाट इज द रिसर्च, डिफरेंट मेथड्स एंड टूल्स ऑफ रिसर्च, डिफरेंट टाइप्स एंड स्टेप्स ऑफ रिसर्च के बारे में बताया। साथ ही इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी रिसर्च के इम्पोर्टेंस के बारे में भी जानकारी प्रदान की, जो प्रेजेंट टाइम में इसकी आवश्यकता है। सो आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक यू अगेन फॉर रेलिवेंट एंड वैल्यूएबल लेक्चर। नाम सर।
और आपका और आपका क्या रिएक्शन, कोई रिएक्शन?
हम
कैसा लगा? वैसे इनफॉर्मल वे में बताइए, वो तो फॉर्मल था आपका मैडम का।
बहुत शानदार सर, कानून को आपने समाजशास्त्र से जोड़ दिया, इतना अच्छा शायद पहली बार सुनने को मिला। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
अरे सर, मैं आपको बताऊं, आप लोग तो खैर सारे टीचर हैं, मैं भी टीचर हूँ। एक बार आप किसी दूसरे सब्जेक्ट को ओपन माइंड से अप्रोच करके देखिए, है ना, सोशियोलॉजी सपोज, आपको लगेगा कि इट इज बेटर देन माय डिसिप्लिन। यू विल ऑलवेज गेट दैट, बिकॉज होता क्या है कि हम एक अपने जैसे एक अपनी दुनिया में रहते हैं, वी आर लिविंग इन आवर ओन वर्ल्ड। सो ये चूंकि हमारा होता है, हम एक लिमिटेड दायरे में सोचते हैं, तो इसलिए हम दूसरे के साइंस को, दूसरे नॉलेज को, दूसरे ब्रांच को हम इस तरह से देखते हैं। एक बार ओपन माइंड होकर आप सिर्फ फाइन आर्ट के बारे में सोच लीजिए, सिर्फ आर्ट के बारे में सोच लीजिए, then you will get that how important even the art is. So that how important that. So that is the point I wanted to this. आप लोगों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जो आप लोगों ने इतने ध्यान से सुना और मुझे बुलाया। तो और मैं मनीष जी का भी आभारी हूँ, और डॉक्टर शुक्ला जी तो खैर मेरे फ्रेंड ही है, अजय कुमार शुक्ला, और हम लोग साथ ही में यूनिवर्सिटी, गोरखपुर यूनिवर्सिटी में ज्वाइन किया था एज ए लेक्चरर। तो और आपके जो डायरेक्टर साहब है मेन, उनसे भी मेरा बड़ा लगाव रहा है, उनका भी मेरे से लगाव रहा है। तो हम लोग आपस में बड़ा मिक्स होकर रहे। तो मेरे लिए ये अच्छा लगता है जब हम अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी से कोई संपर्क हमारा होता है।
जी, ओके, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सो मच।